Hello, and welcome yourself to the yoga mat. My name is Ariele. I'm a physical therapist, also known as a physiotherapist outside the US, and a yoga teacher. And today's practice, we're going to use either a block or a throw pillow. And today's practice is going to focus on core strengthening. So, this is one of my favorite things to teach, and it's one of the most applicable to teach. And for those watching this who are looking to just have a more robust yoga asana practice, this is going to have a lot of translation over to that. And if you're looking for just a more stability in your trunk as you go about your day-to-day lives, this is also the the the, the movement set for a happy, healthy daily function. So we're going to start with a little bit of centering and tiny micro meditation. So grab a blanket or your throw pillow, sit on it, and you can sit in whatever way actually feels good to you. If you want to sit in a chair, you're welcome to sit in a chair. And go ahead and roll your shoulders a couple of times. One of the principles we're going to work with in this class, and I hope you'll take it away from this class, is the idea of stacking the rings and the diaphragms of the torso. And so, believe it or not, the first ring is the bottom of your pelvis, your pelvic floor. You can think of it also like a diaphragm, a little bit of a hammock. The second is the top of the pelvis. So, you don't want your pelvis to be tilted back. You don't want it to be tilted forward. You want those two rings to be stacked one on the other. And you can feel this by feeling the center of your sitting bones. So you're not back towards your tailbone and you're not to the front towards your pubic bone, right? You're kind of in that happy Goldilocks middle. Then you've got your diaphragm here, your actual respiratory diaphragm at the bottom of your ribs. You've got the top of your thoracic spine, and you've got the roof of your mouth and the vocal cords. So, all of these pressure systems and skeletal alignments, once they're kind of plugged in, locked in, your core can function much, much more optimally than when you are in a back bend or a slouch. Makes sense, right? So, do your best to find that neutral place for you. And just as a heads up for a lot of folks who are yoga people, your default might be a back bend. So please drop your ribs if that's the case, draw up your front hip points if that's the case. For those of us who maybe are not too deep into the yoga world, you'll almost inevitably have a little bit of forward head if you spend any time on screens. So take the chin down, ears back. Relax the shoulders. There's no need to draw them back and down, and just allow your eyelids to close. Because this is a yoga practice, we start with the foundation of yoga, which is slowing down these crazy inundation of thoughts that pour through us at any moment. And the way to do that is to just recognize that you're having a thought that has nothing to do with this exact moment right now. Allow that thought to float by, kind of like a cloud in the sky, and to turn your awareness, even if for a millisecond, completely submerge your awareness into the sensation of this moment. Sitting bones, your breath, the air on your skin. Feel the heaviness of your hands in your lap. Notice the air as it passes your nostrils. Observe where your tongue rests in your mouth. See if you can even quiet yourself down so much that you notice your heartbeat. In this moment, there's no need to change anything. We can just be exactly who you are, be exactly present to this moment right here. Let's take a full breath in, top it off with a little bit more air, and let out a nice big sigh. Open up your eyes with your next breath and rolling your shoulders a little bit. We'll move into our core practice today. So, since you're at home practicing, really the biggest thing that you're going to need for this class is a throw pillow. But if you happen to have a yoga block, that's excellent. And a blanket is nice for both cushioning of your knees and also as a little bit of a pillow under your head in case you need that too. We're going to start on our backs. So, have your knees bent, have your feet flat, and please bring your hands to your abdomen. Give your abdomen a little bit of love, a little bit of gratitude for everything that's done for you so far in life. Digested all those pizzas, etc. And then bring your hands to the very front bony points of your pelvis. So one of the most important moves in all of coredom, abdom, is the posterior pelvic tilt. And let me explain. So your pelvis, when your low back flattens, it's as if you're taking the bowl of your pelvis and spilling it backwards. That means that is called a posterior pelvic tilt. An anterior pelvic tilt is a back bend, right? And so an anterior pelvic tilt is literally going to stretch out your abdominal musculature and make it more difficult to contract that musculature. Not impossible, but it's going to be more difficult to have an automated action. As you go into a posterior pelvic tilt, you're going to end up more automatically engaging your abdomen, right? So go ahead and find your posterior pelvic tilt, so your low back flat. This does this beautiful thing of giving us feedback from the floor, okay? So ribs are going to stay really rooted, front pelvis is going to stay towards the ribs, right? And then we're going to just march one leg up and down. Now, this is a little bit simple, but I'm going to ask you to keep the back of the neck long, keep your breath easy, and keep your back flattened into the floor. If you want, you can take your fingers and poke into your belly a little bit, sort of point down and in, and you'll feel probably some muscular contraction happening. So with all of these things going on, back flat, back of the neck long, smile on the face, leg marching up and down, it's a bit like rubbing your head and patting your belly or vice versa. Go ahead and lower that leg. Take a nice full deep breath. If you got any fatigue at the front of the hip flexors, start to drop your knees a little right. One of the requests that I have gotten fairly often over the years as a movement educator is, as we do the other side, let's just remember the principles. Posterior pelvic tilt, front hip points up, ribs down, back engaged, or back flat rather, core engaged, back of the neck long. And then we're going to stay connected to breath, but march the other leg. So in my case, my left leg up and down. I actually really recommend that as you march, you curl your toes up to your knees. Yeah. So one of the requests I've gotten over the years many times as a movement educator is, what can I do? Which movements can I do to flatten my tummy, basically. That's what a lot of folks say. And I think the short answer is the biggest contributor is probably our genetics. And then the second thing is all of those big lifestyle things, like how much you sleep, how much you eat, the quality of your food, all of that stuff. And then as far as movement goes, we don't have this ability to sculpt particular targeted parts of our bodies, but you can absolutely, pun intended, absolutely, um, build confidence and a sense of toning in your abdomen. And that can have just great impacts on your posture, and it can kind of have sequelae into the rest of your body. But in general, the biggest thing you can do is just keep yourself moving throughout the day and not sit down for too long at once. That's my best advice. So we're going to build off of what we just did. Flatten the back, bring both legs up to 90 degrees. So now it looks like I'm in a chair that was tilted backwards, right? And this actually makes the same movement that we just did way harder. So bear with me here. You're going to tap one foot down to the ground and then the other. But I will say that if you feel your low back popping up off the floor, only go halfway. Only go to the point where you can still use your abdominal musculature to keep your low back engaged into the floor. So keep this up if this feels good. If this feels like you're starting to feel some strain in your neck, you are the folks who are going to put a blanket under your head or some kind of pillow under your head. Although I do really recommend the toes curling up, especially on the up version. As you go down, feel free to point your foot as it goes down. Let's talk in just a moment about the difference between hip flexor strengthening and core strengthening and why you might be feeling this in this little area below, kind of like at the front of the pelvis rather than in your belly. So coming to a little bit of a rest, you're going to bring your right hand to the inside of your left knee, really not on the kneecap, but to the inside of that thigh. And you're going to start to build a little bit of resistance here. The muscles that I want you to feel are sort of in a sling across your abdomen. Like you should feel your core start to kick in, your abdomen start to kick in. If you feel it mostly in the hip flexor, like where I'm pointing, the fold of the hip, then I want you to back off and start from scratch again. You could put one leg down, you could come up and you can go in nice and low and slow, as they say. When you initiate movements of hip flexion, which is knee towards the chest, with pelvic posterior tilt, you're more likely to distribute the load out of the hip flexors and into the muscles of the abdomen. Hence why I often start core classes with a posterior pelvic tilt. So really, really initiate, really glue your low back to the ground, almost feel like you're scooping your tailbone to the sky because that's how much you're doing your posterior pelvic tilt. And then activate that resistance here between left knee, right hand, and hopefully now you feel it distributing across your abdomen. Whew. And then add your other leg up if this feels good. So I started with my right foot flat to the floor, and now I'm in that 90-90 position with the right leg. And then we're going to add a little bit more to it. Left arm to the sky. You can really, really reach. You can have your hands kind of in the, however you want, in a fist or activate it. And we're going to slowly straighten out the right leg and the left arm and bring it back in. Straighten it out and bring it back in. Straighten it out. So your straightening can look like mine, like mostly up here, kind of high up towards, still aiming towards the ceiling, leg and arm forming a V shape, or your straightening can look like this, and back. Now I am, as I bring my left arm back to center, I'm bending the elbow because to me, each one of these repetitions that I'm moving with breath, that I'm timing with breath, is a bit of a victory. So I'm very excited and thrilled to be done with that repetition. So this is my yes move, my power move. Last one on this side. Yes, excellent. Go ahead and scoop your hands over your knees. Shake them out. We're going to do a little bit of what Stephen Cope taught me back at Kripalu in the early aughts, the sacral massage. Yes, just little rock and roll with your knees, one direction and then the other. Good, draw your knees in towards your armpits. Let them separate a little bit. I call this the lazy happy baby pose. So typically in happy baby and Ananda Balasana, you grab your ankles or your feet, but that's a lot. Let's admit it. Let's rock a little side to side and then starting from our foundation again. So posterior pelvic tilt. We're going to lift the right leg up if you had your left knee last time. You're going to bring the heel of your left hand to that right leg and start to build the resistance. And it's slow and low, right? So if you're somebody who just feels this automatically in your hip flexors, you can do a couple things here. I didn't give you this option on the other side, but you can, first of all, just go back to your marches. Second of all, you can add a little something between your leg and your hand. And third, you can just make it even softer than it was before, right? You know what to do if you're not feeling it fully in your hip flexors. If you're feeling it kind of distributed throughout the abdomen, you can add your other leg in, right? So other leg also comes to 90 degrees. That's plenty, and just holding this and breathing is a lot. And then you can add a little bit of the movement with your opposite arm and leg. Again, this is very much like the patting the head, rubbing the belly. Make this movement as big as you'd like, but do not lose the imprint, the stamp of your low back into the floor. Even as you feel all of this strength shaking, perhaps being created in a line across the abdomen, across the trunk, I want you to know that really what we're aiming to do is build tapas, or a sense of fire, a sense of discipline in the body. And that sense of discipline, that sense of fire is going to translate, hopefully, into a little more revved up metabolism that can have profound impacts on just how you feel, how you quote unquote burn calories for the rest of the day. It's not really the purpose of our practice here, but it can be a side effect of building this discipline, building this tapas. Last one, back into center, shake it out, grab your knees, rock and roll with your circles a little bit. And then just allow your breath to be really natural and free in your belly for a couple of moments. One thing that I do notice is different between people who lift heavy things and do hard muscular work at the gym, for example, versus a lot of yoga practices, is that folks who are doing hard things at the gym, they recognize how hard it is and they give their body a moment of rest and recover time. A lot of times, yoga flow classes just keep going and going and going, and you don't really have that. You can always take child's pose, but you don't otherwise have an opportunity to recover from the hard thing you did. So let's just use our breath to really relax everything here back to its natural state, because you don't need your muscles to be constantly contracting. You need them to be able to fully relax and fully contract. Yes, that is it. Please roll to your side and then come up to seated. So another one of my favorite core moves is to get into the obliques a little bit. And one of the simplest ways we can do this is through side bending and side gliding. So what you are watching me do right now is move my rib cage a little bit right and a little bit left. I always think of Shakira as I do this because she was very talented at movements like this. Place your hands on your ribs and just glide right and glide left if you can. This movement is a little bit different from what I call teapotting, like the child song, right? I'm a little teapot, spill me out. You're not tilting to the side, you're actually gliding. So your shoulders should stay, hopefully, relatively level with the ground. Yep. A little right, a little left. And then coming back to center, we're going to add to that. So now that you've got the fundamentals down, hopefully you're feeling a little bit of movement here, even if you're feeling stiff in your mid back or low back. As you bring your arms out to the side, this adds a little bit of resistance to the movement, right? So really reach and really reach and really reach and reach. Good. And then come right back to center. And let's do something similar but different. And so, again, a little bit different from teapotting, but a lot more similar to teapotting is the side bend of our spine. And so, wiggle your right fingers out kind of lightly on the ground, reach your left arm up, and then this arm that's up, I want you to really imagine you've got a helium balloon that's pulling you towards the ceiling. Full breath, ribs draw in, and you're going to lean, lean, lean over until you almost feel your core kicking in. So my right hand, or it's not my right hand, but your right hand, if you're mirroring me on the floor, you're going to keep that kind of light so that your abdomen has to do the work, your trunk has to do the work to make sure that you're not spilling over. So hold it here if you'd like. You can fully lift your right hand off the floor. Take a full breath here. Feel it expand into the sides of your ribs. Draw a little bit of that cat energy rounding your back to the wall behind you. Breath, easy, relaxed jaw, and then rise up and we'll take it to the other side. So the arm that's in the air, imagine you've got a helium balloon, it's pulling you up. Scoop your ribs right back in. Sweep the arm by the ear, lightness in your bottom hand. Hold it, ribs in, cat energy to the wall behind you. Option to lift this bottom arm. Inhale up, interlace your fingers, do a little bit of synovial warm up of the joints of the wrists. And let's come onto hands and knees. Feel free to cushion yourself with your blanket if you need it. I think I'll be okay. And for anybody who's just really more sensitive in your wrists, first of all, there are lots of great wrist gadgets you can get that help support you and give you something to grip onto. But if you don't have any of that, you happen to have a couple of blocks, you can put your hands on the blocks like so. I'm going to set them aside because wrists are not an issue of mine. You're going to spread your fingers wide, allow your fingers to turn out a little bit. Push the ground away and feel a little bit of rounding in your upper back. It's not a very big movement, but just this little movement, this sort of pushing the ground away extra, like the final stages of a punch, that's going to help you to activate for sure your upper abs, but in general to fortify and strengthen your spine overall and your abdominal region. So from here, go ahead and shift to your left arm, reach your right arm forward, and if that feels uncomfortable for any reason, reach your arm to the side. Shift to the right arm, left arm forward or to the side. Shift and reach. Shift and reach. Now the key to making this work through your abdomen is to push the ground that's on the floor really away and not to prioritize the arm lifting. Because if you prioritize that, you're going to go into back bend and you're going to lose all the connection at the front body. Shift, reach, shift, reach, shift, reach, shift, reach. Last one on the right, last one on the left. And then go ahead and pause for a moment, back on your hands, and send your right leg back behind you, right about up to hip height. Scoop your belly, try to create a little bit of cat energy here. Walk your hands out into the sides as needed because we're going to round and draw the knee in towards the nose. Inhale, find neutral. Exhale, round in towards the nose. Inhale, find neutral. Exhale, round. Last one. Lower. Giving your wrists a break for a moment, come onto your elbows. Widen the space between your knees. Bring your toes together. And then round yourself up into the air by drawing your elbows closer to your knees. There's not a lot to see here, but what I'm doing right now is I'm creating an isometric contraction where I'm sort of dragging my knees and my elbows towards one another like I'm trying to wrinkle up my yoga mat. Breathe into your back body. I feel shaking. Hopefully you guys do too. And then relax. Circle your wrists. Come right back onto hands and knees and sweep your left leg back behind you. Find it up to hip height. Exhale and round. Hip height. Exhale, round. Do your best to keep these movements in and out through your nose. And then last one. As you come out this time, place your left foot on the floor behind you like you're going into plank. And you're going to push the floor away, around your spine a little bit. Draw your right knee now towards your nose. So scoop it up and down, okay? So again, if it's a lot on your arms, the option is to put your hands on blocks. Another option is to even put your hands on or your elbows on the seat of a chair, as long as that chair is not going to slide out from underneath of you. So left leg stays in plank, arms stay in plank, shoulders rounding just a little bit. Breath into the back body. Draw that right knee up and down. Up and down. And I want you to notice something. We've got 3 more repetitions of this, but I'm not just sending my butt up to the sky, right? I'm not just sending my tailbone to the sky. I'm actually drawing it in and forward, even though it would be much easier to do this. Last one. Really round. Feel like there's a magnet at the base of your rib cage. Oh yeah. Settle it down. Bring your elbows to the floor again. Elbows and knees. Knees look like a diamond. They're out and the toes are together. And then round your spine. Squeeze your elbows towards your knees. Breathe into your back body. Coming back through to center. We'll place the hands back on the blocks if you're using them. From table pose, reach your right leg out. Get that plank quality. Round your spine as much as you'd like. Ribs up towards the ceiling. Active leg. And then left knee in. Ooh, mama. Bringing in the principles of yoga to this moment. If you are feeling a little bit overwhelmed by the movement, see if you can become a witness, observe your experience, and not place any judgment around it. Not start thinking words like this is hard or this is crazy, and instead just notice what your thoughts are and kind of allow them to separate from the experience itself. You can get curious about new sensations that you're experiencing without labeling them. You can always recognize also through that observation if something's too much in your body. We've got one more of these. Really round, really lower down. Lower both knees down, blocks out of the way. Reach your right arm by your ear. Push the ground away with the left. Reach your left leg, so opposite leg back behind you. Exhale, elbow to knee. Inhale back. Exhale, elbow to knee. Notice how this echoes what we did on our back. Notice how it's very easy to go into a back bend here and to lose that posterior pelvic tilt. So if we want to engage the front body muscles a little bit more than the back body muscles, not that there's anything wrong with engaging either of them, but if you want to create that stability, don't bring the leg too high and don't go into a back bend. Yes. Last one. Good. Lower. My arms are getting tired. And other side. So right leg reaches, belly engaged. Push the floor away with the right hand. Left arm by the ear. Exhale, elbow past knee. Inhale, reach. Exhale, elbow past knee. Inhale, reach. Exhale and curl. 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 Go slower as needed. Last one. Really pull it in. Lower, lower. And then let's cross at the shins. Bring your legs to one side. I will often refer to this and similar shapes as Mermaid Sit. There's actually a Sanskrit word for this version, swastikasana. But when your legs are a little bit more together, I think of it more like a mermaid shape. And so again, we're going to do some of that side gliding of the spine before we get back into some lying down core stuff. So if your feet are off to your right, you're going to reach your right arm out and you're going to lean in the direction of your legs. If this puts too much pressure on your knees for any reason, give yourself the booster seat of throw pillows, block, blanket combo under the leg, under the hips. And then last one, rock back. Rock onto the back of your sitting bones, fully allowing your low back to round a little bit, coming into a modification of Navasana. So the knees are bent. This allows the movement to be further distributed out of the hip flexors into the core, feeling that little bit of flattening of the back, posterior pelvic tilt to initiate the movement. And then we'll take it to the other side. So top shin cradles into the arch of the bottom foot. Cushion yourself as much as you need with your blankets here, especially if this feels yucky on your knees. And then if your legs are off to your left, you're going to reach your left arm to the side and back. Allow me to also suggest that if you don't feel a whole lot happening in your trunk in one of these variations, maybe try a different angle. So maybe it's the 45-degree angle where you're going to feel a bit more, because a lot can depend on your individual body and what your own body needs. So kind of go around the clock a little bit. Same thing on the other side. Last one or two. Back to center. If you're on the props, I forgot to say this last time, but you might need to get those out of the way a bit. Rock to the back of your sitting bones. Allow your spine to round a little bit. Float your legs, bring your shins up. And this is going to fire more core than if you're in your back bend, right? Option to lengthen the legs out. Draw it in, set your feet down, and slowly come onto your back. You're welcome to roll down and not use your arms as I did. Draw one leg into your chest, other leg long. And just notice that you're going to have a little bit of a natural gap under your low back on the side of the leg that is stretched out. So if you can fit your hand in there, great. That gives you a little something to feed back into. And let's go ahead and bend that knee, set that foot flat. Reach the leg that you just had into your chest up towards the sky. Flatten your back on purpose here. And now we're going to color outside the lines. So instead of going up and down, We're going to open to the side and back to center, side and back to center. What I want you to pay attention to is how much your arms are contributing to this movement. And hopefully the answer is 0. If you're not quite sure, you can put your hands across your chest. But I would say even better place is to put your hands on the front of your pelvis, especially on the left side if it's your right leg that is moving. So don't allow your pelvis to go along for the ride. This is going to engage your inner thigh muscles, which has an irradiation type effect. Not the nuclear irradiation, but a muscular irradiation type effect up into your core. Keep your leg out to the side and start to draw some little circles. So I'm probably 20 or 30 degrees out to the side, tracing the equivalent of a teacup saucer. Aiming to breathe at the same time. And then I'm going to draw this leg in, push through the foot that is flat to the floor. Float your hips up, hold it for a couple of seconds here. Lower, lower, switch sides. Draw your other leg into your chest, right? So if you've got your left leg in now, it's your right foot flat. You're going to reach this left leg up towards the sky. Start maybe with your elbows to the floor, opening the leg out and back. Remember, you don't have to go very far to feel quite a bit happening here. And if you notice that you're using your arms, then float those elbows off the floor, put your hands on your pelvis or across the shoulders. Breathe, open and close. This is a great place to use a pillow or blanket under your head if you feel your low back kicking off the floor. Try to keep your chin down. And again, pelvis level. My leg is drifting all over the place. A lot of this observational stuff we do on the yoga mat is really about creating more symmetry in our bodies, more consistency, right to left. And there's a system in yoga. The famous one is the chakra system, right? The chakras, the root chakra, and all the way up in all the colors. But another way of seeing our physical experience, and now you're going to keep your leg out to the side a little bit and trace those little imaginary teacup saucers, is through the lens of the koshas. Koshas are like the layers of an onion. Switch the direction of the circle. Remember, this is a tiny little circle. It doesn't have to be a big one. And it's all about keeping this engaged as you move your leg out to the side. Koshas are like these little onion layers that gets progressively more subtle and difficult to observe. Draw this knee right back into your chest. Push through the foot that is flat to the floor. Bridge yourself up. If you have the pillow under your head, then I want you to remove that and hold it for a couple of breaths. The most obvious layer of our experience is the physical layer. So we're using this movement practice to connect with our physical layer, our food layer of the kosha system. And then, of course, through that, we can also access our intellectual, our subtle energy layers, all of those things. Draw your legs up towards your chest, rock a little side to side, and come back into that lazy, happy baby position. So the knees start to travel in the direction of the armpits. Back rooted to the floor. Legs are going to come closer to 90-90, like they did before, except we started off here with the legs together, and now they're going to be apart, okay? And so what we're going to do from here is, again, keeping your low back in contact with the floor, start to pulse the legs forward and in. You'll notice that my shins mostly stay parallel to the floor, maybe a little bit out of parallel, but not too far out. And I'm just kind of sliding my feet forward and back. I'm going to keep the knees in line with the pelvis, curl the tailbone up towards the sky, which already in this isometric is a lot of work. And then we're going to bring the hands to the back of the head and start to curl. So it's less about my chin going to my belly button, and it's more about the rib cage dropping down. Can you see that? Yes, perfect. So knees are really wide. Feet are active. Like my knees are shaped like a big V here. Yeah, even wider. And push that imaginary push plate forward. Drop the ribs. Just a few more. Curl it up. Inhale down. Exhale, curl it up. Inhale down. And my legs are getting tired. So this next one, we're going to call that our last one. Draw your knees into your chest and rock a little side to side. So we've gotten in touch with our obliques, our rectus abdominis, our transversus abdominis in various ways. And, you know, we have done the legs together, the legs apart, the leg lowering, the leg out to the side. But I want to get a little bit into rotation and anti-rotation. So a classical way to close a yoga practice is through just a gentle twist to the right and to the left. We're going to add the resistance of core work to that. And I recommend either taking your throw pillow or your block between your legs and activating your legs like so, or squeezing your legs together and imagining that there's something in between them, right? So I've got the block, so I'm going to squeeze into the block. I'm also going to, as a bonus, separate my feet a little bit. This works my internal rotators of the hip, which is an under-engaged set of muscle actions. Hands to the back of the head, and I'm going to draw the knees up and over to my left elbow. It takes effort in the trunk to not fully fall the knees to the floor here. Lower the knees forward, but stay in that diagonal. And then up and over to the right elbow, so it makes a big diagonal. Active legs forward, up and over to the left. You can think of this as tracing an X in the middle of a box, or you can think of this a little more poetically as an infinity symbol. I recommend going really slowly, connecting with breath, and keeping the midline of the infinity symbol at your pelvis or even at your belly button. If you go too far down, you're going to end up engaging your back body muscles. Again, nothing wrong with that. If you want that, go for it. If you want to target more what's happening at the front of your trunk, keep your feet high. Mindful infinity symbols, yes. With the arms, do even less work by pointing your elbows towards the sky. Oh my gosh, my mat is a little uneven, so I just rolled off the right side of my mat. Bring yourself right back to center. Either set your feet together as if you were clapping and your feet got stuck together, or grab the block and place it between the soles of your feet. And then do a little bit of a circle here, cooling down and centering, and then take the circle in the other direction, Baddha Konasana, legs. Yogis, you are welcome to draw your knees into your chest, roll up a blanket, slide it under your thighs, come into your Shavasana position. Or if you would like to join me for a seated meditation to close our time together, grab your blanket, your block, anything you'd like to sit on. And wherever you are, get yourself comfortable. This is really so fundamental to stilling our minds. It's almost like when there's a lot of chaos in your life, it is so fundamental to put yourself in a clean space without distractions, even if that means every now and then getting out of your home and going to a hotel, checking into a hotel or something if you have the means to do that. No distractions, nothing to clean up. It's just you and the space. Same thing in our body. Can we make sure that there are no distractions inside of our bodies by giving yourself that extra 10 seconds to get comfortable? So align the rings of the trunk, the diaphragms of the trunk, from the inside out to smooth out any of the frown lines and concerning wrinkles of the face, to feel the tongue float to the roof of the mouth. Feel the gentle tug of gravity in a soothing way. It also recognizes the profound support beneath us. As your breathing slows, notice your thoughts. And as you notice your thoughts, pause. Allow them to pass by. And connect in deeper to this very moment, now and now and now. Gently deepen your breath. Imagine that breath flowing through you into your fingers and into your toes, wiggling, reawakening. If you'd like to stay in meditation or shavasana for longer, you're welcome to do that. And if you're with me in the reawakening, let's take some circles of the wrists, the ankles. From your back, draw your knees gently to your chest and roll to one side. Take your time to push through your top hand to rise to seated. Eyelids stay closed as we gently bring the hands together over the heart or palms together in front of the heart. Allow the breath to be full, unimpeded, and the rings to align. We give thanks and gratitude for this practice, for our health. We also give thanks and gratitude for this community of yogis and practitioners and movers and folks who are interested in health from all over the world. We're doing the same exact thing with us right now. What a treat. Thank you for being here.